Terry McLaurin, maybe. And Mark Kaboly dropped this one. Big kaboom show here. Don't worry, I'll send him the clips. He'll see him already, dude. This guy, Mark Kaboly, man. First off, shout out. We've been talking. I'll tease it a little bit here. Well, we don't have details on it yet, but we've been talking a little bit here, a little bit there during training camp about a potential crossover show of the Noah Jacob, Kaboom, and Mac show, and would be awesome. We'll try to figure it out. But anyways, he sees everything and constantly loves to send me TikToks of myself with hateful comments in them, just to be like, hope you're having a good night. And it's, I hope he's having a good day. He dropped hint or massive boom, I guess. We'll call it a boom. We'll call it a kaboom. Love that. That the Pittsburgh Steelers, in his eyes, are expected to make a move for a wide receiver, quote, within 10 to 12 days. He says Terry McLaurin could be an option. Odell Beckham's closer to an option. He rules out Amari Cooper, which I think we've been doing for a long time here. 10 to 12 days for the Pittsburgh Steelers. How surprised are you that the Steelers may be this urgent to make a move? And do you think the sense of urgency gives you some idea that it might be a bigger splash or a smaller splash in your eyes, depending on what side of the line you teeter, on where they go in the direction that they head at wide receiver?
Ooh, the specificity of this kaboom is making me feel inclined to say that this is going to be another big move. I don't, and again, you've been calling me on my downplaying of a big move for the past couple of weeks, and I have been pretty steadfast in that belief, but the tables have shifted so starkly in the last 48 hours. I just think with all of this, we're approaching September, where 10 to 12 days puts us at August 25th. Right? We're not too far off from week 1.
Last week is a desperate
time. That is urgency, if there is urgency to be had for the Pittsburgh Steelers roster. And so, it all kind of, when I'm putting this piece together, doing this mental math here, I'm like, maybe that dream of Terry McLaurin isn't dead. Maybe that bigger move that we've talked about and speculated about and then downplayed for the more average move is on the table in a more concrete way. If the kaboom's out there, it's kind of like where there's smoke, there's fire. If the kaboom's dropping, there might be more on the way. And I also want to believe, admittedly, that there is a larger move on the way to sort of solidify and round out the Steelers offense. Where are you at on this teeter-totter?
I'll tell you this without giving up too much, because I don't think that I think there's fire. Okay. I think there is fire. Okay. I think that from what I've been told over, this is not new. This is not today's information, but which like the 10 to 12 day thing struck me as a whoa, just like everybody else. But I've obviously had constant conversations with a number of people, and it's been the same thing of like, yeah, they were impressed by Roman Wilson with his 2 catches, and they think Roman Wilson could be good. But there's not many people in Pittsburgh that are sitting around going, I can't wait for Scotty Miller to be wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4. And there aren't many people sitting around going, I hope that Calvin Austin doesn't miss regular season games, because right now that's a possibility. And you're looking at Roman as that wide receiver 2, great, except for the fact that Aaron doesn't really trust Roman Wilson right now. So there are issues there. And the Steelers have been very aware of it. That's why they called Washington. That's why they've been calling teams, monitoring trades. The difference, I think, is that right now we are starting to enter the point that we've talked about for months now, where it's becoming a reality. Teams are very open right now to making moves. They understand, much like the Steelers do, what their roster is going to look like in 2025. The Steelers have a pretty good idea of who the 53 guys are going to be on their roster come week 1. There are a couple of like, maybe they make a play or two and they earn their way in here, but 99% of this roster is sculpted and they're ready to go, which means that they got guys that they're ready to move. and other teams have guys that they're ready to move. And I don't know exactly who those names are, but the Steelers are ready to do something. And Odell Beckham, I think, is a surprise to me. I did not see Odell Beckham coming. I think Odell Beckham, while it is a possibility for sure, is a little bit smoke just to cause smoke, not smoke because of fire. Like, I think Odell Beckham and Mike Tomlin might have had a conversation, and Omar might have reached out to his agent, or his agent might have reached out to Omar. But I don't think that, Odell Beckham and the Steelers have a contract on the table. I don't think that they're that close. But the Steelers are going to act as if he's an option, just like everybody else is an option all the time. They have to keep all options on the table. But we are hitting that point where guys are becoming available. Guys are also getting hurt. And I think the teams are starting to make moves, which is giving a sense of urgency to the situation. So 10 to 12 days to me feels pretty spot on. Like, it's going to happen. Something's going to happen. What's your confidence level 1 to 100 that the Steelers do make a move at wide receiver? It doesn't have to be a trade. It could be a signing, but that there is a new wide receiver in Pittsburgh. And then I have another question for you, but I want this one answered first.
97.
97. I agree with that. I think I think it's spot on to 100.
Yeah, I think it's like a near guarantee that there will be another wide receiver. A move is going to happen. I don't think we can really avoid that at this point. And I don't think there's really any other direction to look at this or any other way to interpret sort of what's been happening the past few days. The second part of your question here, I'm curious.
What are the chances that Roman or Calvin are in a trade package for another wide receiver? Because you asked me at the beginning of training camp, and I'll tell you that there's no chance they're trading Calvin. You asked me 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks where we leave Latrobe and Calvin doesn't participate for over a week because of an injury. Looked fine, but there's nothing explosive beforehand. Him and Aaron didn't have this immediate, like, he's the next James Jones or whoever you want to classify him as. What's the 1 to 100 here that you think one of those two names are on the move if they do make a move to bring somebody big in?
Man, and it's crazy how much of a different tune I'm singing here, but I'm saying 56. Okay. I think we are just over, more likely than not, that a younger piece, Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin, excuse me, are included in a trade to get something bigger. I think we can concretely say that we have seen enough to know that more is needed, right? That these two are not the answer for 2025. Beyond that, we don't know, but they need more offensive help for this season. If you're all in, you got to consider making a move like that. And I think I would sleep pretty well at night if we parted with someone like Roman Wilson or Calvin Austin III in order to bring in a stud of a wide receiver and some of those bigger names that we've been talking about that feel like really good fits in Pittsburgh.
I agree. I definitely agree. I think it's just over 50. And to be honest with you, I think I'm higher than 56%. The Pittsburgh Steelers have no loyalty to either of these guys. They don't need to have any loyalty to them. Roman Wilson is a third-round pick. Third-round picks get moved all the time. Third-round picks don't make the roster 2 years into the NFL all the time. Like, that's just DeMarvin Leal was a third-round pick. Guy's not going to make the team. If he does, it's because Alex Highsmith is injured. Yeah, which stinks. I think DeMarvin Leal is a very talented guy, but he never worked out. He's a third-round pick in the NFL draft. These happen constantly. Roman is not a first-round pick. No, Roman is not a guy you are tying your ship to say that he has to be here. Do the Steelers want him to work out? Certainly. If Washington tells Omar Khan, we'll give you Terry McLaurin for a third-round pick and Roman Wilson, Omar Khan saying yes. He's not going to say no to this situation. Calvin Austin's the same thing. They want Calvin to be that guy so bad. And they would trade Roman before they traded Calvin. I guarantee that one. But Calvin is on the last year of his contract and doesn't have plans in place for next season and is now injured, which means that it's all adding up for the Steelers to say he's disposable, more disposable than he was at the beginning of training camp. I'm not saying that you're going to trade him for a nobody. I don't think that you're trading Calvin Austin for an Allen Lazard who just got hurt the other day. I understand, but you're like, it's that caliber of play. You're not trading that. But if the right opportunity presented itself, if the Tyreek Hill conversation went somewhere, if the Terry McLaurin conversation went somewhere, if I don't know, Chris Olave, if we're going to go real back, but he's injured again. I don't think that's on the table right now. If there's something in that demeanor, to be honest with you, if they called a team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Bucs said Jalen McMillan, a guy of that caliber, is on the trade block, we'll give you Jalen McMillan and a 5th round pick for Roman Wilson and a 7th. I think the Steelers would make that move. I really, truly do.
They'd have to.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think that there's any loyalty to these guys right now. And I think that the Steelers went through training camp and did not leave it any more impressed than they entered it. So to me, it's a big possibility.